There's a Yiddish word my mother uses often. It's kvel, and it means to be proud of someone, but more accurately, to rejoice in someone else's good work, to fill up and to swell. That's very much how I feel tonight among my talented and accomplished friends and fellow writers. We have a fantastic lineup, and I'm kvelling. When I emailed Regina last week for some basic biographical information or recent publications for my introduction, she replied by stating only, "I'm a Buffalo girl." Aside from causing me to conjure up images of a Buffalo girl, maybe something like Regina but hairier and with hooves, this very succinct email also reminded me of what I love best about her as a writer. Her brevity, her concision, and her ability to cause readers to fall in love with a character or hate them tremendously 3 sentences in. Please welcome our first reader, Regina Ernst.
Wow. It's an honor to read in front of all of my friends and colleagues who I love so much. So here we go. This story, I started maybe last spring or summer, and I'm still working on it, but it's at the point where I could share it and feel okay about it. So it's called Closure. I hadn't spoken to my ex in over a year. Then he was bouncing over the hood of my car. The impact caused his body to separate from his bike, which remained dented in front of me. His body lay behind me, a bloody mess. I remained in my car, shocked and embarrassed. Not because I had hit him, but because I was dressed in my nun habit and crucifix, which I'd started wearing when I left my apartment most nights because my next door neighbor Pedro had started stalking me. Rather than confront Pedro face to face, the obvious thing to do was lie about my identity and fake the severest of Catholic conversions. When the urgency of the situation finally registered in my mind, I stepped out to check on my ex. It didn't look good. He was unconscious. The natural wave of his hair was all askew, and somewhere under there was a serious head wound. His body looked broken, like a finger puppet without the finger. His right arm stayed twisted and trapped underneath his body as he lay covered in blood, though his khaki shorts may have made his legs seem bloodier than they were. I panicked. That's why I didn't call 911. It didn't even occur to me. Also, I had never tried to lift a man's dead body weight before, and I'm pretty self-competitive, so I was up for the challenge. I hooked my arms under his and dragged his body across the asphalt to my car. His shorts kept sliding down, and I had stopped to pull them up when headlights slowly approached. The car pulled up alongside mine, and the man inside lowered his window only to raise it immediately and speed away. I'm sure he had every intention of asking if everything was okay, until he saw the problematic image of a nun preparing to shove a limp body into the back seat of her car. I pulled his body next to the back door, opened the door, and hopped into the back seat, after which I sloppily hauled him up and into the car. I'm making it sound a lot easier than it was. He was heavy as fuck. Once I got his top half into the car, I slid out the other side, came around, got under his legs, and started ramming his ass until his whole body was inside the car. Then I propped him upright and climbed on top of him. His eyes remained closed. His rusty scent came through the miscellaneous fluids and debris. His strong face with its permanent frown, his thin lips and skeletal cheeks, reminded me of those mornings when I'd wait to wake him up just to watch him sleep. Now I stared hard at him, blood fresh on his right sideburn. I pressed my lips against his and got my tongue in about an inch before another set of headlights advanced down the street. I moved to sit in the front seat with the door open, and while nervously biting my nails, I tasted his blood in them and remembered I needed to drive him to the hospital. At least that was my initial intention. But once I started the car and saw his bloody face in the rearview mirror, I had the suspicion he was already dead. And I really had never gotten that closure I was looking for all these months. I left his bike behind and started driving. "Benny," I said, "we haven't spoken, but I know you've seen me with other guys. I know you've seen me with that one guy with the long hair and the tattoos, because I saw you when I was with him. You were walking down Main Street arm in arm with a woman. I remember it very clearly. She held a small red clutch, and she smiled a lot, even though no one was talking to her. One of those girls who assumes people are watching her because she thinks she's more beautiful than she actually is. Well, I was watching, and I wasn't impressed. At this point, I pulled to the side of the road because Benny's body had slumped over when I'd made a sharp turn. I quickly popped out and into the back seat to readjust him, this time seatbelting him in place, and then I climbed back up front to resume our drive. "I know you saw me with Max, too," I continued. "He's the really bulky one, like huge. He cuts his hair short to make his head look bigger, stronger. You saw us at the theater. I thought it was strange even to see you at the theater, considering how you never used to go with me. Yet there we were, Max and I, and you and that same girl. She had her hair up with the front braided. She looked pretty, besides her small nose. And I noticed you kissed her on the cheek when the lights dimmed. And I thought maybe you felt too embarrassed to kiss her with the lights on, because her nose really was too small. And you must have seen me with the nerd, which was embarrassing because I only went with him on one date and it just so happened to be the same coffee shop you were at. You must have seen us because I saw you and her again. This time you guys were pretty serious, playing a game of chess. From where I sat, she looked to be kicking your ass, Benny. Why did you always want to play chess? Old men play chess in public, but when young people do it, they must want others to notice how smart and thoughtful they are. Why not play it at your house, on your own too? That time, when I was with the nerd, and I say nerd because he was an astrophysicist and I find conversations about the universe to be rather dull, I actually used you to get out of the date. I told him, "Oh God, my ex is here. He's always following me around. I have to go." And I ran out and never called him again. He wasn't quite edgy enough, so thank you for that. "Benny, it's true what I told him. You have been stalking me. It's clear, and it has been for some time now, and I just wanted to confront the issue. So that's why I hit you, Benny, because it's been getting creepy. I didn't mean to kill you, necessarily, but I did want to get your attention. To show you I mean business. To tell you, you can't get away with treating an ex-lover like that. Following her around, flaunting your new relationship, it's just not right." His weak voice interrupted me. "You're fucking crazy." Those were Benny's last words to me. They stung, but I told him he could make it up to me. Before I dropped his body behind the hospital, I made one last stop. I parked the car right in front of the huge window at Lake Effect Diner, where my neighbor Pedro, the one who's always stalking me, was working behind the counter. I climbed over the front seat so that when Pedro looked out the window, he saw me and Benny kissing in the back seat. Even when covered in blood, Benny was very attractive. I know Pedro instantly recognized my nun get-up. He saw Benny and me together. And finally, I hope he got the message that I was taken and that he didn't need to follow me around anymore. Thanks.